and welcome to an hour with the Ant candidates on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party. Dan Fishman, executive producer, and I'm your host, Pat Ford. We've entered the marathon week, the last week, the final week, where candidates from the Libertarian Party, the Libertarian philosophy around the nation are literally, as they would say in a football coverage, they're leaving it on the field. And we've begun a marathon week. We're going to try at least just about every night to have some type of interview with candidates who began on this show early on before we were on the big Libertarian Party Facebook page, and candidates, some who've reached national, if you will, acclaim, all in order to continue to bring to the entire movement, you know, that libertarian movement with the 50 state plus District of Columbia plus Guam footprint, that movement full of those libertarians. We want to bring you a feel for the energy, the ferocity with which candidates around this nation have campaigned from the hyper-local to the near-national. Joining us tonight is an alumnus of this show. He joined us early on. His name is Joshua Flynn. He's running for the Chicago, Illinois, District 78 House of Representatives seat. Mr. Flynn, welcome back to an hour with the candidates.
How you doing? Thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to go down a little roster here of your endorsements. Really a stunning set of successes. Let's start with the big guy, the Chicago Tribune, and then let's work our way around, if you will, the Illinois political spectrum, and let's hear who's reaching out and supporting your candidacy.
Yes, well, the Chicago Tribune was one of the first endorsements itself, as far as the big endorsements you're talking about. The Illinois State Lodge, FOP State Lodge endorsed me, as well as the FOP Lodge 7 endorsed me here in Chicago, which is the Chicago Police Department. Also, I have an endorsement from ATU 241, which is the bus services from CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, bus line here as well. Illinois State Rifle Association gave me a nod and a wink, and also sent out emails to the constituents in my district. So, yes. And the Illinois Federation for Life. That was another one here in Illinois. So that endorsed me.
Now that's outstanding, and congratulations for that. Let's recognize the importance of that, because these are organizations with a wide range, a wide footprint, as we like to say, around the political universe that is Chicago politics. And
yes,
there's Chicago, as we all can imagine, as we all know, anyone who's read a little bit of history for a very long time has occupied a very special place in American history and politics. Holy cow. So for someone who is certainly not out of the duopoly, certainly not a product of the Illinois Democratic machine by any stretch of the imagination, for you to accomplish this is outstanding. Let's talk about process, though, because a lot of candidates, they're running on a very hyper-local race. You know, they've never had an opportunity, particularly as a libertarian, to go through the process of getting endorsements. So let's talk about the big one, of course, which is the Trib. And I know some of this was some of the interplay between the between your opponent and the Trib, as well as the other area paper. But let's focus on, they reached out to you. How did they conduct your interview? Let's not worry about that other person. They don't matter. You do. How did this all come down?
Well, with the Tribune, basically what they did was they sent you a questionnaire. They emailed me a questionnaire based off the information I gave the State Board of Elections. And you basically filled out that questionnaire. The plan was to have an open forum. We didn't get a chance to have an open forum because the incumbent did not want to, she didn't want to get herself involved with it, because she has a record that they have to go based off of, and she didn't want no involvement at all. And pretty much, weeks went by before they couldn't reach out to her. She didn't reach back, and they went for my plan because of me being for lower taxes, fixing the property tax issue in the state of Illinois, bringing back more jobs, and my interest basically into fixing the criminal justice system here in the state of Illinois.
How this is going to sound like perhaps the most remarkably vacant, Captain Obvious question you faced during the entire campaign. But when you get questionnaires preach to our masses, if you will. How important is it to take the time and invest thought, consideration, advice, counsel in filling out those questionnaires?
Very huge, because just because you might not get endorsed by them, they know where you stand. There's some organizations that took down my sent me questionnaires. They don't endorse. Matter of fact, Illinois Right to Life. It was another group. They don't endorse, but they put down what you said in the actual questionnaire. So that's a big thing. I mean, that's huge, because now they know where you stand on pro-life issues or pro-choice issues. The Rifle Association, they didn't outright endorse me, but they know where I stand. They actually love my responses on the questionnaire, but because this is my first time running, they didn't decide to endorse, but they did tell their constituent base, to vote for Flynn. It's a huge thing. You need to let people know where you stand on certain issues. So the more questionnaires you fill out, the more your name gets around circulation. Another group was the debate motorcycle group. They didn't endorse me either. Matter of fact, the president, the chair of the group, gave me a call to let me know he wasn't going to endorse me. They gave me a C plus, and he's like, Josh, before you jump off, let me explain to you what a C plus is. He said, because this is your first time running, we don't know too much about you as far as your political stuff. So, I want to ask you a question. The first thing he asked me, he said was, did anyone from our group reach out to you? I said, no one reached out to me at all. He said, well, you had a perfect questionnaire. He said, I want to follow you. I want to know more about your campaign. And especially if you win, we're going to support you next time around. But if you look to run for anything else, please let us know. And because of that, that's the opportunity that I look forward to. That's why I wanted to tell other candidates, yes, please, as soon as you get those questionnaires, please fill them out. It's a chance to let you know where you stand, and it gets the notoriety of the Libertarian Party as well across your state, or if you're on the national level as well. So, yes.
And you just pointed out how, as equally important, how is it that when you reach out to organizations, when you essentially preach to them, and they haven't made overtures to you, how much more seriously do they take your candidacy?
Oh, very serious. Now that with the motorcycle group, so their chair up here in the he covers Chicago, the Cook County area, and he's out of DuPage, and now he follows me on Twitter. I mean, he's interacting with my social media pages more often because of that. Yeah, it's a big deal. Even with the FOP, my direct involvement with them is, they actually endorsed me, and they seriously backed my candidacy over the incumbent because of my views on law enforcement and my views on criminal justice reform. But yeah, I can't say more about that. It's a big push. It's a big need. Yes.
Right. And then, and this is sort of what I'm working my way up to. Yes. How important is it for you, particularly as someone who's got a tremendous amount of life experience? We talked about that last time. We'll talk a little bit about tonight. But how important is it for you to campaign where people might not necessarily initially like you?
Well, that way it's probably more like Oak Park, where it's very, very progressive, very liberal, very democratic. Mm-hmm. And I get people that, because I'm there every day. I've been there since the start. Monday was the first day of early voting. So it's either me or one of my team members is there. We get a lot of positive feedback. We actually do. We get a lot of positive feedback. And then you have the ones that would say, no, I don't want to be bothered. They throw their hands up and keep moving. But I get a lot of interaction. I mean, I get a lot of voters that are going in voting for me, because when they're coming out, they're giving me thumbs up on the way out. Right. And Oak Park was my biggest area where I knew I was going to have problems getting voters, but now it's going a lot in my direction. Most of the part, like one of my people say, is the biggest thing about campaigning and canvassing is 50% is just showing up. That's half the battle right there. Right. And by me being there, so with somebody from my campaign being there every day passing out literature, it's a huge thing, because now I'm getting those votes that the incumbent is missing out on because she doesn't believe she has to campaign. So yes.
And that the last couple of questions I had with candidate Flynn, I believe, are hugely instructive to the Libertarian Party, because part of the purpose of the show is not only to introduce candidates, to get folks to get a feel for candidacies around the nation, but also to get best practices and get tips, what works, what doesn't work. And we're going to continue the show after the election, and a lot of it's going to focus on, for the first few months, we're going to have experts in. We're going to have folks who are candidates again back in, who can reflect on hopefully their successes, things that they might like to do differently, but create an exchange of ideas for candidates around the nation on how to be successful. Now, this sounds so obvious. Candidate, go where you're not liked. Well, we constantly see candidacies who spend a lot of time, for example, campaigning to other libertarians. Well, I'd ask folks to step back from that a little bit. It's important to make sure that your base is solidly behind you. But as a libertarian, if there's someone running in my district, I'm voting for them. There are too many exigent issues and challenges right now as a party, whether it be for the presidency on down to a local council person, a local water board. I'm supporting endorsed libertarian candidates because it is a critical step in our future as a movement and as a philosophy. I am not going to encourage anyone who, over one single issue, one single disagreement, one perhaps perceived imperfection, to step away from a libertarian candidate, because not only are their candidacies critical to us, ballot access issues are critical to us, and you never, ever know how important the success of a candidate is going to be in reaching out to other folks and giving them a sense of where we stand, where our philosophy stands, and quite importantly, the legitimacy of our philosophy. So when candidate Flynn goes to Oak Park, Illinois, and it's the thing about it, I've done some research into some of these Chicago area districts. Holy cow! You talk about a melting pot of neighborhoods, backgrounds, beliefs, ethnicities. It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, like I say, Oak Park is. We're talking about 50 plus years of the Democratic rule in Oak Park. Great. Lighting Township is more conservative leaning. The people there, even the leadership there, the mayor is in one of the towns, which is Inwood Park. He's Republican. The county commissioner in that area is Republican. But even still, it's three congressional districts run through my state rep district, and all three are Democratic congressmen. So, yeah, it becomes rough, but you got to stay at it. You got to keep hitting it every day, in and out. And people will actually, instead of voting for, because they vote for a party right now, they voting for Democrat, but now they're voting for the person, Joshua Flynn, the candidate himself. On my views, lower taxes, safer streets, better education for our kids. You got to let them know. You got to sell them your plan. You got to sell them your vision of what you see different for your community. And that's what they buy into. That's what they vote for. I got stronghold. I got big time Democrats been voting Democrat for 50 years, 60 years. I mean, you got seniors voting Libertarian now. That's the thing. I have, Republicans going to vote Libertarian if it's not a Republican on the ballot, which is not. So, but I got long-term Democrats voting Libertarian because of that, because they believe in my vision. They believe in my plan itself. Mm-hmm.
And that's outstanding. And that's why when we talk about the libertarian quote unquote bench, and I'd like to, I'm going to make a motion, if you will, that after this election that we kind of just, throw that term out, because it's not a bench. I quite frankly, I've been involved in politics a long time. I've learned a lot over the last few months from both on the air and side, if you will, conversations with these candidates about how to message, just the vision that they put forward in trying times like this is so important to our success, regardless of how the national ticket does. Folks are going to learn about libertarianism from local candidates and local organizations first, and it is your vision that's going to stimulate that type of interaction, which will get us votes. Remember, folks, that they don't have to be libertarians. We're looking for people to vote for us. And so while it's important that they admire and they embrace your vision, most of the people that vote for Mr. Flynn will probably never join the Libertarian Party. And we are not worse off for that. simply because the coin of the realm is votes. And for us to exact the type of sweeping changes that we hope to bring across this nation, particularly in times of great challenge and of great fear, we simply need votes.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we give it away, that we promise things out. We stick to our philosophy, but we need their votes. Now, Mr. Flynn, tell us about some of the ongoing activities you had in terms of reaching out to voters in clearly a challenging time.
Well, since this past month, pretty much, we've still been door knocking, door to door, canvassing throughout the district. We've reached the people, the actual door to door, 3 times so far. We reached every voter's door 3 times so far. We also, like I say, every day, I have 5 early voting locations in my district. 3 of them are my really strongholds where I need to pay attention to, which is Enwood Park, Chicago 29-4, and Oak Park. Yeah, like I say, if I'm not there, I have a person that's there every day during early voting, and looking forward to have some people in there, different precincts, polling locations on election day itself. Another thing is my commercial just went out today. It's actually airing in my area on CNN, HGTV, TV Land, Lifetime, and Lifetime Movie as well. In the basically pretty much in my suburban part of my district itself. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've been doing. Matter of fact, sign waving is another thing we actually have done. But these weeks coming up now, since we're in early voting, we're paying more attention to the polling locations, and looking to do some phone banking as well to make sure to gather the vote, especially for election day. Yes.
Now, talk to us about your organization, because you mentioned a critical point. One person cannot be an entire campaign. There are reasons why campaigns need campaign managers. There are reasons why you need a campaign treasurer. Those are fairly obvious. But talk to us. How did you pull together all these folks? Are they family? Are they friends? Or some of them people who just admire your vision?
Some are family. Some are friends. Some people I worked with in the past, and a couple are actually close knit. Actually, are from my Chicago chapter. Mm-hmm. So we basically, in that network, that's how we pulled together. Far as getting financing from outside sources, for donations, volunteer work to go out to the streets to do door knocking or either at the polls. That's my close niche family here. It's about 7 of us, and we're doing it with that, and we're doing very well. And then we have other volunteers that come out from different parts of the Libertarian Party as well. When we did the sign waving, and even now with our Chicago and Cook County chapter presidents that come out weekly. So Adam Bowling and Justin Tucker basically come out with us on the weekends and through the week. And one of our candidates too for Cook County State's Attorney, Brian Dennehy, he came out with me actually last Sunday to the polls here in Chicago. So, and this is what we do. This is where the hard niche of politics is at in Chicago, and we are hanging with the best of them. So, oh yeah.
Oh, that's outstanding. So how long have you been actively campaigning for this position?
Well over a year. I think I announced like April 2019 actually.
Wow.
So since April 2019, I actually been actively campaigning. Full strong campaign run since January. Yeah. Wow. January this year. Yeah.
So how important is it then? And a lot of these questions are obvious, but quite frankly, you bring a resonance to this that I can't possibly. How important is it to be organized early and get off to an early start?
The earlier the better. You can prepare better, especially for donations, trying to get donations for the campaign. Mm-hmm. You can prepare better for knowing more about the person you're going against, because you need to know what legislation they have done that's not right. You need to know these things going forward, and knowing your community. You have to know your people. So my district has a little over 108,000 people. Of that 108,000, 72,995 of them are registered voters. On a particular presidential year, election year, we have around a 75% turnout.
Wow.
Out of that number. People here vote. So you have to, in order to know who they are, you got to do early door knocking, because you're not going to be able to do it at the last 2-3 months trying to figure out how I'm going to reach 70,000 people. Because you got to reach the masses, because you don't know where folks' minds are at. And some won't turn out. And then we got new, kids turning 18, voting for the first time. People moving into the district itself, in the suburban side a lot. So you gotta you got to reach the voters early on to catch them before your opponent does. That's the goal. You got to catch them before your opponent. You know, what they say, the early bird gets the worm, and it's true. The same with politics. You know,
Of those 72,000 or so voters,
yes.
How many, when you talked about reaching people 3 times, how many people did you put into that total that you reached out to and touched 3 times?
Well, actually, we actually hit every door. So and we hit more than the actual registered voters. We hit doors that wasn't registered voters as well. So we hit everybody in the actual district, all the constituency of the district itself. That's the 3 times I'm talking about. Not just the registered voters, but actually people that's non-voters as well, non-registered voters. Some are now registered voters now because of us hitting them early on too. I got some people registered to vote. So yes.
So you're telling me you personally, you and your team, at least someone in your team, hit
Yes.
the entirety of the voting population of your district
Yes.
3 times in person.
More than the voting population, but yes, 3 times. Yep.
Oh,
Just the 3rd time we just finished up. Yes, sir.
Yep. That's outstanding. And this, by the way, and I'm going to compare you, if you will, to our national campaign. You know, at a time when the Le Grand Orange routinely points out that Mr. Biden is campaigning from his basement, and where Le Grand Orange campaign, if you will, is limited largely to airplane hangars in airports and military bases, and a handful of stadiums. We have, in a sense tonight, we're comparing and contrasting a presidential candidacy from the Libertarian Party that will have, I guess, and I was only with it for a week or so, but literally hit something along the lines of 48 states in the United States during an international pandemic at no risk or harm to anyone, and then compare that to a local candidacy here. And when I say local, that's not to, I mean, that's just a function of your district, which again is in an urban area, an incredibly complex district economically, spiritually. You'll have personally reached out to hundreds of thousands of people. Now, do we understand now the sweat equity that Mr. Flynn has got into his campaign? And he's a shining example of exactly what we have to do. And it's hard. It's really hard work. And there are days, I'm sure, Mr. Flynn, that you would have preferred to have cozied up on a couch and caught reruns of something. But
yeah,
I mean, how many, were there times where you just wanted to take a night off? I got to ask you that.
Every night I feel that way. Your body is breaking down. I mean, prime example, the other day it was raining. I mean, it wasn't just raining; it was pouring down. The polls open here at 8:30 in the morning, so one of my guys couldn't make it to the Chicago 29-4, so I had to get out there. So I was there at 7:45, and around about 8:30, when it first started opening up, it was just drenching. And I never forget, a voter was walking around. I was holding on to my umbrella, and he looked at my car and he took it from me. He said, "I'm going to vote for you just because you're out here in the rain, just because of that." Had another voter on Monday when I was in Oak Park. He told me, he said, "Man, just because you're out here, we don't see anybody else. I'm going to vote for you just because of that." And like I said before, 50% of it is just showing up. And with the weather, the way it's been, it's been rough. It's been rough, but I'm from here, so I get used to it. But it's just to keep moving forward, because I'm trying to win. That's my whole goal.
Right.
I'm not trying to get a certain percentage. I'm trying to win this race. So
right. So and folks, that's talk about the fire in the belly. Holy cow! What do you estimate the win to be in terms of how many votes you need to take the prize?
Well, I put my win number at 53% of the vote. I'm figuring somewhere around 28,221 votes to win this election.
Not 28,222.
221.
21.
Yeah.
Okay.
I take 22. Yeah, I take that as well.
Okay. No, fair enough. So what's also gone into your candidacy has been hard looks at the numbers. You know where you have to be, when you have to be there, and what you have to present to people, don't you? Pretty much, it sounds like at every moment.
Yes. So yeah, you have to know the numbers. You got to know the district to know the numbers. So I know that in Oak Park, it's gonna be a rough sale for me to get the win number of Oak Park. So that number is gonna be a lot shorter. So I banked it around 4,201 votes there, and then with Lighting Township, which consists of Elmwood, River, and Franklin, I put it up more of a 15,000. The reason why I did it there more is because of the more conservatives that's there in the district itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we did early polling, they helped out a lot too for me to figure out my numbers in Chicago. So I know in Chicago it'd be more me evenly. So I think I had it down at like 8,900 votes, somewhere around that number. Yeah.
And equally important, of course, is the issues. And you know, we spoke weeks and weeks ago about,
Yes.
you know, what was at that time beginning to seem important to people. With a week to go, what are the issues right now that resonate to folks in the city of Chicago?
Well, it's the same thing. More businesses. I mean, it's the lack thereof, within the Austin community. Property taxes is just like skyrocketing throughout the district itself. I had a voter come to me in River Grove. She's from River Grove. I was doing canvassing out at Anwood Park, and she said, "Did you know that the property taxes in River Grove is some of the highest in the state of Illinois?" And she said, she was like, little River Grove, and I said, "Yeah, this is Illinois. This is they drain the citizens here, and most people in River Grove, are middle to lower incomes, mostly middle income families out there, and they're trying to survive, and they paying taxes throughout the roof. Even Oak Park, a lot of people there are paying a lot of high property taxes there as well. And then education is key. Chicago, our schools here, we still have a loss of our schools. We're losing kids every day, are not showing up. Kids are not involved. I'm probably going to lose another high school here in the Austin community. Austin High School, at one time, is one of the best high schools in the country. At one time, right now, we have there less than 150 students.
Wow.
When I was in high school, that school had around maybe 1,500 to 2,000 students at that time. And
Wow.
I just graduated high school in 2005, and it's just declining, constantly declining. Losing elementary schools. Then with the loss of families moving out of the state. In the past 10 years, Black families, we have lost 250,000 Black families out of the state of Illinois. So it's just, and that's because of the lack of jobs, lack of education, and housing. That's the three biggest things that that we need here, and that's my goal, is to try to bring that back to our community and back to our state, statewide. Yes.
Right. Your opponent. I want to phrase this carefully. How much energy do you take from what your opponent feels is a one election? I mean, your opponent behaves as if they can just mail it in. Does that fire you up?
Well, that's the thing. That has changed in recent weeks. So my opponent now, because I'm here every day. Mm-hmm. My opponent now went out and got 4 different yard signs put out. My opponent also got 4 different mailers put out because of me being out here. Right. One of the people, she sent somebody out to canvas at 29th Ward one day, on the first day actually, late. And, I overheard this conversation. He's actually on the phone with her, talking to her on the phone. And he's like, he's actually right here. The candidate is right here. And, you need to be out here. He's here right now. I'm looking right at him. He said some profanity words, but he's like, I'm looking right at him right now. And he tries to talk to me every day, but he's just wasting his time, because they want to try to sway you to stop campaigning, to slow it down, so that they can get the extra oomph. Yeah. But her fear is to come out on me. But come on out. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Is there been any overtures for a debate while this was all going on?
No, she's like I said, she's dodged she dodged the forum with the Chicago Sun-Times, and she had dodged the debate they was trying to get with the Southland Chamber of Commerce, the Black Southland Chamber of Commerce, right. And she has not responded to them at all. So, yes.
Her loss, your opportunity,
and
as the libertarian community nationwide. Our win, regardless, because of the way that you have delivered the message to a group of folks who, without, quite frankly, your involvement, might not have seen that message for a few years. And that's the nobility of these campaigns. Got a week to go. It sounds like you have a pretty organized get out the vote effort. How can folks help you out?
Well, we need more people to come out to the polls, especially on election day. I have about 59 polling locations on election day, and that's a lot of places to cover. I'm gonna be at quite a few. Actually, I'm trying to at least show my face at every single one of those locations. If I can't show my face at least all of them, I want to make sure I'm at the polling locations that have 2, 3, or 4 precincts involved. I also want to I'm gonna show up to my precinct first thing that morning. I've already early voted on the 14th, so I got that out of the way. So basically, yeah, on my website, I have a volunteer link at votejoshflynn.com, VOTEJOSHFLYNN.com. Also, you can message me if you need some more direct information on my social media pages. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as my LinkedIn as votejoshflynn.com. VoteJoshFlynn is my name's on my social media pages.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I know this has been an incredibly hectic week. I know that your evening probably isn't even over yet, and thank you for taking time to deliver your message. If you had one last thing to say to folks who are thinking, they've watched, maybe they've been a volunteer in a campaign, maybe they've been an officer in a campaign, but they're contemplating, in a year or two, do I take the jump? Do I make the move? What's your message to them?
You ask yourself, what do you want to see different in your community? If you see a problem and that problem is not getting solved with the people that are in office, it's time to get off, excuse my language, get off your ass and make that step to make that change. You can't wait on anybody. You can't depend on anyone else to do that job. If you see something that's a problem to you and your family, you have to step up and run. You have to run. No one else is going to do it. You have to do it. Yes.
Joshua Flynn, he is running for District 78, House of Representatives, endorsed by, in addition to unions and political organizations and right to life organizations, also an endorsed candidate by the Chicago Tribune. Thank you for joining us. I'd love to have you send me offline your commercial so we can give it some play, so we can fire some people up.
Sure.
And again, listen, thanks for everything you've done this year. It's been to be on the sidelines and watch your campaign in action. It's ennobling. It truly is. So God bless you. God bless your family. Best of luck coming up this week, and try and have some fun this week. Give them hell. All right, buddy.
All right. Sure will.
Folks, you've been listening to An Hour with the Candidates on LPTV. We've got a week to go before the presidential election and thousands of national, local, state, you name it, elections taking place across these 50 states, and Libertarian candidates are leaving it on the field for themselves, but also for the movement, the philosophy of the party. Folks, reach out to these candidates. Give them not just moral support, give them like shares. That's all great. Send them a couple of bucks. Let them know how honored you are to be a libertarian with folks like Joshua Flynn as candidates. And they're everywhere. We tried to get in as many as possible. We couldn't. We're going to try and get in as many people this week as possible. Ultimately, we look to you, the Libertarian Party, and folks who follow the Libertarian philosophy to support them. Take them over that line. Watch the LPTV page and the Libertarian Party page for more announcements as we have. We're going to try and get Ricky Lee from the great state of Arkansas on in the next day or so. So keep tuned in, and we're going to deliver as many candidates as possible as we can from now until Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pat Ford, and have a wonderful evening.